initiatives resonate with the voters is because we don't have elected leaders like Loren Culp at the head of our government willing to listen to us. Loren Culp is somebody that actually respects the will of the people. Whether it's the First Amendment, our Second Amendment rights, or even our $30 tabs, Loren Culp is willing to listen. Jay Inslee isn't. I strongly encourage you to get involved with the Loren Culp campaign for governor. He is going to be a breath of fresh air for the people of the state of Washington. Finally, once and for all, we're going to have an elected leader that's willing to listen to us and not insult us the way Jay Inslee has. Loren Culp for governor, I support him. I hope you do too.
All right. Hey, everybody. Where's her mic? Hey, everybody. My name is Tim Eyman. How you doing? My people. That's my mom there. She's really awesome. No. Well, hey, thanks very much for coming out. Let's hear it for Loren Culp. But let's be fair. I want to hear from the pro-Inslee people in the room. I'm at the right rally. This is good to hear. What is a word that comes to mind when you think of Jay Inslee? Throw it out. Come on, it's a family event. Riley, is there a word that you think of when you think of our current governor?
I think he is a snake. Wait, but that might be a little offensive to snakes.
It is so true. Jay Inslee, it is a complete struggle trying to figure out the thing that pisses us off the most about Jay Inslee. One of the ones that really sticks in my craw is that when he ran for governor in 2020 or 2012, he said he would veto any tax increase.
He's a liar!
And here we are now, 33 tax increases later, costing us $52.1 billion. He lied to us 33 times. Now, the other thing that really gets me is that he spent $5 million of taxpayer money running for president.
It's our money! It's our
Did
money!
it really cost $5 million for us to learn that 0% of Democrats wanted him to be president? But the one that's really hard to top is $1 billion to go into Nigerian princes. No matter what you hear throughout this entire campaign, whenever they throw something at Loren Culp, you will always be able to say, but he never sent $1 billion to Nigeria. You're always going to have that. Now I'm here with my daughter Riley. Let's hear it for Riley. Not worthy. Not worthy. I am going to throw out some ages, and I want that show of hands on whether or not I'm guessing the age right. How many people think that she's 8 years old? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This young lady is 12 years old. And what I just watched right there is I stole her line. How old are you, Riley?
I am 12.
One of the greatest things that I've got going in my life is that I get to travel around the state of Washington with my daughter Riley, doing something that I love with a woman that I absolutely adore, and it is so much fun for me to be here promoting Loren Culp for governor. Now Riley here is going to put 2 words together, and she's going to say them over and over again, and I want you to do it with her at the same time. I seem to have forgotten what those 2 words are. What are they, Riley?
Culp 2020.
What was it again?
Culp 2020. Culp 2020. Culp 2020. Culp 2020. Culp 2020.
I love it. Give yourself a round of applause. the thing that I really admire about Loren Culp is his work ethic. I don't think anybody has ever seen a candidate running for governor in the state of Washington who worked harder than he has. And the thing that I love about Loren Culp is he knows it's not just all about him. He has built an amazing team of people who are working every single day to win this election. There's no doubt about it. Let's hear it for his team. And there's one particular person on his team that is literally working every day to get him into the governor's mansion. Every day he has a new idea that makes us all inspired to vote for Loren Culp. What's the name of that supporter?
Jay Inslee.
Every day, Jay Inslee is working hard to get Loren Culp into the governor's mansion. Because every day is an adventure with Jay Inslee. Every day is a new press conference. And we get to learn what the rules are that day. And we learn that that's the rule for only that day. Because I remember being told there's 4 phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4. And then one day...
1.5.
Where did that come from? He just made it up one day. That is what he did one particular day. Just when you think you've got it figured out, there's a new press conference with new rules. I remember when he banned fishing in the state of Washington. Everybody remember that? There are 50 states in the union, and we were the only one with a governor who said that fishing alone in the middle of a lake made you susceptible to COVID-19. But the rules were amazing. If you're sitting in a rowboat in the middle of a lake with your hook in the water, you were susceptible to COVID-19. But if you were sitting in the rowboat and there was no hook in the water, you were safe. Now, Riley, when does COVID attack outside of bars?
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
9:59, you're safe.
And what happens at 10:01?
It attacks.
It attacks. We've now learned under Jay Inslee that this is the most clever virus we've ever seen. It's got an incredibly high IQ. Absolutely. It can discern your political ideology. Because if you're a rioter, you do not have to wear a mask because you're not really susceptible to it. But if you're at a Trump rally, COVID's coming for you. And they bust your balls for not wearing a mask. But what really gets me, and it's hard not to take this one really absolutely personally, is our $30 tabs. I will tell you a story, because it's my favorite story, is that 2019, this young lady and I were traversing all over the state, getting our initiative passed and promoted. And it's election night, and she's standing next to me just like now. And we don't know the results of the election yet. And we have so much built into it, because it's been 20 years that I've been devoting my life to doing this particular policy goal. And there it was election night, and we didn't know what the results were going to be. And I'm in this pitched battle with Bob Ferguson, our Attorney General. Any big fans of Bob Ferguson out there? Yeah, he's number one. He's number one. No, and I'm in this pitched battle. And one of the things that Bob Ferguson wants is to ban me for the rest of my life from being politically active in the state of Washington. In his lawsuit, he specifically says we're seeking a lifetime ban on future political activity. So on election night, I'm standing next to her, and I take her aside before I know the outcome of the election, and I said, Riley, the universe would not be the way it was supposed to be unless you were with me here tonight, because this may be the last initiative I'm ever able to do in the state of Washington. And without missing a beat, she said,
I'll carry it on.
right there. But I reminded her that she was 12 and that she would be going to Wazoo and getting a veterinary degree. And again, without missing a beat, she said,
I'll do it after.
It was an amazing evening, and we ended up being victorious. A huge, huge victory. The voters overwhelmingly voted for this initiative. But literally a couple of days later, Jay Inslee said he's going to block it from taking effect. And what was the reason, Riley, he gave for not allowing it to take effect?
He said we were confused.
How many people were confused by the $30 tabs initiative? Riley, what does the $30 tabs initiative do?
You get $30 car tabs.
My 12-year-old daughter is smarter than Jay Inslee. What was that, Riley?
Low bar to clear.
Low bar to clear, that's exactly right. So it's hard not to take it personally, the fact that Jay Inslee is blocking us from getting the $30 tabs that we voted for over and over and over again. And under Loren Culp, we will get our $30 tabs. Because unlike Jay Inslee, the rules won't change because Loren Culp believes in a document called the Constitution. And what's neat about that is you know the rules now. If you elect Loren Culp, you know what you're getting. You're getting your constitutional rights back. With Jay Inslee, you know that every day is an adventure where anything goes. Maybe your Second Amendment doesn't apply anymore. Maybe the First Amendment doesn't apply anymore. You're confused by $30 tabs. Every day is different. Under Loren Culp, you can count on your constitutional rights. So the thing I love about Loren Culp, the thing that I think I really admire the most, is he kicked my ass. I like winners. I like winners. I like the fact that he absolutely kicked my ass. I think it's an absolutely good thing because we want to elect a winner. And he won the primary. Let's watch him beat Inslee's ass in November. They're just giving me time, getting me to stop talking. How difficult is that, Riley?
Really hard.
No, but Jay Inslee is making this campaign a lot easier for Loren Culp. Every day, Jay Inslee is doing stupid stuff, infuriating all of us. Now, it is a Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday. And we're all out here listening and talking about Loren Culp. So we are the freaks of nature that are not normal. Our job is to go find the normal people and get them to vote for Loren Culp in November. Getting all of you to vote for Loren Culp is the easy part. The hard part is for you to leave this rally and go out there and find everybody on your email list, everybody on your Facebook page, and you need to be relentless talking about Loren Culp. And not just why Jay Inslee's bad. You've got 80 reasons why Jay Inslee's bad. Tell us why Loren Culp is good. What Loren Culp is good at is he's an outsider. He hasn't been a politician all his life. I admire that about Loren Culp. He served in the 101st Airborne. Our veterans, we have to love them. And what a novel idea that Loren Culp believes in law and order. I remembered when those 6 blocks got taken over on Capitol Hill, and Jay Inslee was asked about that. And he said, that's news to me. So was he lying, or was he lying, or was he clueless? Neither one looks that great. No, about Loren Culp, together we can bring common sense back to Olympia and lead Washington. I forgot the word. Lead Washington. Lead Washington's comeback. I literally practiced for hours. I have given a basic line and I keep blowing it. I'm working on it. But seriously, together, we are going to bring common sense to Olympia with Loren Culp, and we are going to lead Washington's comeback. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the next governor of the great state of Washington.
send common sense to Olympia? Yes. Are we ready to get Jay Inslee out of office in November? Absolutely fantastic. I am among great people, right? How many of you have been to a Culp for Governor rally before? All right, a lot of new people. That's awesome. Thank you all for being here. I'll introduce myself to you, and then we'll talk about some issues. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. I was born and raised in Washington State. I absolutely love this state. I don't like the things that are happening in it right now, but I love this state. This has been my home. I was born in 1961. I grew up in a small farming community called Chimacum, Washington. Has anybody heard of Chimacum before? Yes, it's a great big city. Over outside of Port Townsend, there is a cafe, a gas station, and a school. That's how big it is. I grew up on the family farm, 3 brothers, and I went through school in Chimacum until my freshman year of high school, and then my parents moved us over to Republic. My dad was a deputy sheriff in Jefferson County when I was growing up, but he got out of law enforcement. We moved to Republic, and that's where I went to high school. Has anybody been to Republic before? Yes, it's a beautiful mountain town in the northeastern corner of the state. Up in the mountains, trees everywhere. I mean, everybody thinks of eastern Washington as kind of desert and wheat fields, but you get up in the northeastern corner, it's mountains and trees. It's absolutely beautiful. That's where I went to high school. That's where I met my high school sweetheart, Barb. We've been married for 43 years this year. I don't know how she's put up with me for so long. But we have 2 grown sons and 7 grandkids that live down by Olympia right now. And at 19, I joined the United States Army. Any veterans or active duty with us? Thank you. Give them a hand. Thank you for your service. I served in the world-famous 101st Airborne Division. I was a combat engineer. And for those of you that don't know what a combat engineer does, we blow things up. And we are absolutely blowing up the election in November this year.
Out of here!
I went through drill sergeant school at Fort Leonard, Missouri, where I then helped to turn civilians into soldiers. I served overseas for 1 year in South Korea. And after serving 4 years active duty, Barb and I decided to move our young family back to Washington, to the Olympia area. And I went to work in the trades. I worked for other people for 3 or 4 years, learned how to frame houses and do concrete foundations and driveways. And after 3 or 4 years of working for other people, in 1988, I started my own construction business right out of Olympia. And just to let you know where I came from, which was pretty much nothing, I started that business in 1988 with a 1977 Datsun pickup truck that I bought from my grandpa for $600 on payments. And I had 1 employee. But I was realizing my American dream, right? I was working for myself. I was building a future for my family. And I ran that business for over 20 years. I built that up to where I had multiple vehicles, multiple crews doing jobs all around Puget Sound. And then after running that for over 20 years, a job opening came open for a police officer in Republic, where I met Barb, where I went to high school, where she had lived all her life. And like I said earlier, my dad was a deputy sheriff when I was growing up, but it was always my childhood dream to be a police officer. And so I decided at the age of 49 years old that I was going to realize my childhood dream. And I applied for the job, sold my business to my youngest son, who still runs that business to this day, by the way, raising my grandkids on it. And I got hired and went through the police academy at the age of 49 years old with a class that was about half my age. A lot of them called me Grandpa. But I made it through, became a police officer, realized my childhood dream. I've been a patrol officer. I've been a narcotics detective for over 3 years. A canine handler. I was a sergeant for the force, and I've been the chief of police there for the last 4 years. It's very rewarding work to put criminals in jail and protect good citizens. So a series of events started happening in my life, starting in 2018. Not by my planning, not by my design. They just started happening, and that's what's led me down this road to being standing right in front of you as a Republican nominee for governor of Washington State. So 2018, you remember that anti-gun initiative that passed in the state, 1639? That banned military-age young adults, 18 to 21, from buying a semi-automatic rifle. Even a 10-22 plinker rifle that most kids learn how to shoot with. They could not buy one. If they already own one, they could not leave their own property with it. Not only that, but it made potential felons out of otherwise law-abiding citizens. If a criminal broke into your home, stole a firearm, went out, committed a crime with that firearm, you as a homeowner could be charged with up to a felony for what the criminal did. Now, I don't care whether it was the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fifth, Sixth, any of them. It was happening on my watch, and I was not going to violate citizens' constitutional rights. I was asked the day after it passed by citizens if I was going to start arresting 18 to 21-year-olds who I saw with a semi-automatic rifle. And my answer was no, I'm not going to do that because it's a violation of their constitutional rights, and I took an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. That stance got me on the national news. I was on Fox and Friends and the Daily Ledger on One American News Network, and I was on Tucker Carlson talking. Yeah, we love Tucker, right? Talking about my stance, why I did it, by what authority I did it, what we need to do as citizens and public servants. You know, because Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution is even more explicit than the Second Amendment. It says the right of the individual citizen to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired. That's one simple sentence. There was no way I was going to violate my oath of office. That's a promise, right? Every public servant, every elected public servant takes that oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution. And it's about damn time they started doing it. In December of 2018, I wrote a book called American Cop. It went to #1 on Amazon in multiple categories, and it was a #1 best-selling book on the Hot 100 New Books list on Amazon for weeks. In American Cop, I talk about the Constitution, the rule of law, what our founders said, what they meant, and what it means to be an American. After that book was published, I was invited around the state to speak at Republican Party Lincoln Day dinners, sportsman shows, all across the state. Every weekend, I was traveling somewhere in Washington, speaking to citizens groups about our rights and our responsibilities as citizens, and the rights and the responsibilities of our public servants. Because Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution says that the power is inherent in the people, and government is there to protect citizens' rights. Isn't that beautiful? When the founders of Washington State got together and decided to form Washington State and then write up the rule book for our government, which is the Constitution, that's the first thing they thought of writing. The very first thing they put in our Constitution is the power is inherent in the people and government is there to protect citizens' rights. I love that. They knew what they were doing, right? So many of our public servants, I don't even think they read the Constitution. They raise their right hand, they take an oath, but they don't uphold it. So travel around the state after American Cop was published every weekend through the spring and into summer of 2019. Talking to citizens groups, people started asking me to run for governor. Because we need to get rid of Jay Inslee, we need someone that will stand up for our rights. And more people were starting to come out to see me speak. More and more people had read American Cop, and more people were asking me the same thing. So in July of 2019, I talked to Barb about our 2 grown sons, our 7 grandkids, and we decided that I need to jump in with both feet and help to turn this state around and return it back to we the people. So in July of 2019, I made an announcement speech in the City Park of Republic. I had about 120 people come out. And I talked about the issues going on in this state. And one of the biggest ones, it still is, but it's not in the news too much anymore because other things are taking over the news cycle. I'll talk about them in a minute. But one of the biggest things that's still going on in this state is this homeless crisis that was all over the news, politicians talking about it, right? But I didn't call it a homeless crisis. I've dealt with people on the street as a narcotics detective for over 3 years. It is an addiction and a mental health problem that we have going on. It did not used to be like this. 10, 15 years ago, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Politicians just want to throw money at it, right? They want to build houses for everyone living on the street. Spend billions of taxpayer money doing it. But that's not going to solve the problem, because that's not the problem, right? If we built a home for everyone living on the street, and tomorrow morning we wake up, everybody's off the street living in a home, people are going to come here from every state, all across the country, with their hand up saying, I don't have a home, build me one too. It will be a perpetual building program that will cost us billions of dollars and not solve the core issue. You can go to places in King County. The police will not arrest you for having heroin on you. 7 to 8 grams of heroin, police won't arrest you because the prosecutors will not prosecute. The left says that it's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. So they're stuck in this cycle of addiction on the streets. That's not the answer. That's not what we did when I was on the task force. We had zero tolerance policy. If you have residue of heroin in a baggie, that's a felony in Washington State. We would arrest them, they would go to jail, they'd see the judge, and the judge would give them a choice. They can go to prison or they can go to treatment. And most of them chose treatment. And a funny thing started happening. After these people got off the drugs, got their head clear, they'd get out, they'd get their kids back, they'd get a job, and they'd come up and give me a hug and thank me for saving their life. That's compassion. That's tough love, right? That's tough love. That's a boot in the butt, and that's what they need. You can't just wake up one day and say, well, I'm not going to do heroin anymore. It does not work like that. But right now we're wasting millions and millions of dollars trying to fix this problem, and they want to throw billions more out there to build homes. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. It doesn't work. I toured a facility down in Longview not too long ago. It was a homeless shelter treatment facility. And they set this up because they were trying to help the community of Longview, because people were living on the streets, just like all over the place now. Feces and dirty needles, garbage, tent cities. So they set up this program, and it was taking mostly state funding, right? But with the state funding comes the state rules, and they had to be a zero threshold entry program where people could come and go as they please, very lax rules. But they weren't getting a success rate that they wanted. They were getting single-digit success rates. Board of directors got together and said, this just isn't working. We're not helping our community. We're just wasting taxpayer money. So they set up their own rules. They quit taking mostly state funding. Now they're mostly funded by the community and businesses in the area. And they have a locked door. They have security cameras, security guards, mental health professionals, drug addiction counselors. They've got a daycare for family units when mom and dad are going to counseling or going to look for a job. And they've gone from single-digit success rate to 76% success. And they count success as someone coming in off the street, either single or a couple or a family unit, and ending up back in their own place, paying their own way with a job and their family together. That's success. That's compassion. What the left wants to do is nothing close to compassion. I want to bring that model all across this state so we can quit wasting taxpayer money on programs that are not working. Are you with me? Is anybody happy with the way this virus has been handled by our state government? So this virus came around and Jay Inslee decides he's going to pick winners and losers, right? He issued his stay home and go broke order.
We're the losers.
If you had a pot store, abortion clinic, or a big box store, you could stay open according to Jay Inslee. But if you owned a gun store, a church, or a mom and pop cafe, or a barber shop, or a salon, you had to shut down. Does that make sense to anyone? It's like he thinks the virus knows which buildings to go into and which it can't go into because he said so. It makes absolutely no sense to anybody with common sense, right?
And he hired a consulting company.
So, yeah, he hired a consulting firm. Yeah, because there's a state of emergency. It was on a no bid contract, right? He hired a consulting firm at $164,000 a week of taxpayer money to tell him what to think and what to do with the virus.
And no special session.
I think I got in the wrong line of work. How about you guys? $165,000 a week of taxpayer money is going to consultants to tell Jay Inslee what to say. That is unacceptable. A no-bid contract. We all might want to go into the consulting business, right? It's pathetic. So he shuts down businesses. I just talked to a lady the other day. Her name's Jody. She runs the Rescue River Ranch out of Leavenworth. You might have seen her video on Facebook. Yeah, this is a single mom running a rescue ranch for animals, trying to rehabilitate them, and she pays for the feed and the care of these animals through families coming through on tours to see farm animals. And the state told her she had to shut down, and she was threatened with $10,000 fines per day if she did not shut down her operation. She was in tears doing a live stream video the other day. She didn't know what she was going to do. Single mom trying to make it, trying to rescue these animals and keep her home. That's what Jay Inslee's doing to people in this state. There's a barber in Snohomish County. He cuts one person's hair at a time. He's been in business since the 60s. He's a veteran. And the state has fined him $90,000. That is what Jay Inslee's doing. That's the result of what we get with the far left and Jay Inslee in this state. It is absolutely unacceptable. Remember Article 1, Section 1? The power is inherent in the people and government is there to protect citizens' rights. Jay Inslee has never read that or he doesn't care. I will have a firm grasp on the Constitution when I'm governor. I will understand the servant role of our government. This is not the first virus that we've had, right? It's not going to be the last. We've had Ebola, bird flu, swine flu, AIDS. They come and they go. When I'm governor and a virus comes around, I will have press conferences with the medical professionals to explain to everyone what's going on, what we should do to protect ourselves, our family, and our business, what might happen if we don't follow the medical advice, and as governor, make sure the supply chain is as open as possible for the equipment that's needed, and then let free individual citizens decide what's best for themselves, their family, and their business. That's how you are a governor over free people, free Americans. We do not work for Jay Inslee. He's not our boss. He's not our king. He works for us. He is a public servant. And it's about damn time we get a governor in there that understands that role of our government. Is anybody happy with the riots that are going on? No. The way that's been handled? No. You know, we all have a First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, speak our minds, go to the church of our choice, right? We're guaranteed that right by the First Amendment, right? We are exercising our First Amendment right now. Doesn't it feel great? The key word there is peaceful. Right? Protesting the death of Mr. Floyd. I saw the video. That police officer put his knee on his neck, held him down for 8 to 10 minutes and killed him. Protesting that, absolutely warranted. But when it turns violent, when buildings are lit on fire, cars are lit on fire, stores are looted, rocks and frozen water bottles are thrown at our police, that's no longer a First Amendment right. That's a riot. And that's a crime. At the request of local law enforcement and the State Patrol, Jay Inslee sent in the National Guard because the governor is the commander-in-chief of the Washington State National Guard. He sent them in there. But what did he do first? He disarmed them. He sent our young men and women in uniform into a violent situation without the means to protect themselves or other people. That's what they're going in there for. And then pulled them out and started negotiating. Those communities were being terrorized. There's people that work there. There's people that live there. There's people that own businesses there. They were absolutely being terrorized. There were crimes committed there. Arson, rape, murder. And we pulled everybody out and negotiated. The United States government does not negotiate with foreign terrorists, and the state of Washington should never negotiate with domestic terrorists either. So this isn't the first riots we've had. There's probably going to be more. When I'm governor, if a riot starts to break out, violence starts happening, and it looks like it's going to get out of control by the local law enforcement and the State Patrol, I will have the National Guard spun up and staged close to where the violence is happening. And when local law enforcement and State Patrol call for backup, the National Guard will be there with the means to protect themselves in minutes, not hours and days like with Jay Inslee, and they will shut it down. The people committing crimes will be arrested, and the rest will be told to disperse. That's how you shut down a riot. That's how you return law and order to our communities. Is anybody happy with this sex ed bill? It's pathetic. I've read it. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. It's going to be on the November ballot, and we need to vote that out. Yes? Along with the Education Secretary. Absolutely. It's disgusting. Yes, vote for Maya. Definitely. We need to send common sense back to Olympia. Absolutely have to. We have a huge leadership crisis in this state. At the state level. I've spent my whole adult life in leadership positions. Sergeant in the Army, ran my own business for 20 years, been a police officer for 10 and chief of police for 4. I've spent my life in leadership. I know how to manage people. And the thing about it is, I'm not going to be your leader. I'm going to run the executive branch of the state government. You are going to lead your own lives and your own businesses, and the state's going to take care of the state. It's called freedom.
Freedom!
They go to prison. Criminals belong in prison. So let's talk about the environment for a second, shall we?
Yes.
Does anybody here fish? Any fishermen, fishwomen? Yes, awesome. Yeah, our salmon populations are in the toilet, right? Jay Inslee talks all the time about how he wants to bring salmon back to feed the orcas. I like orcas, right? I like orcas. We need to bring the salmon back to feed the orcas. They're beautiful. If you've ever seen them in the wild, they are awesome animals. I spent a lot of time on the water. One of my grandpas was a commercial fisherman. My other grandpa was a sport fisherman. I spent days and weeks on the water with my grandpas from a young age. We need to bring salmon back, not only for the orcas, but for Washington citizens and our tourism industry as well. You know, I went out to Westport not too long ago and talked to a group of people out there involved in the fishing industry. There used to be over 300 charter boats that worked out of Westport alone. Just Westport. Think about all the other ports around the state and the river guides. 300 charter boats, and they're down to 28. I'm just talking Westport, from 300 to 28. Every one of those boats had a captain and a crew making a living wage, taking care of their families, and then people from all over the world used to come here for our fisheries, right? Because it was so great. So you've got a whole industry that has been devastated. You got airlines, hotels, rental cars, sporting goods, cafes, gas stations, you name it, licensing. It's gone because salmon are in the toilet. It's been mismanaged by our state for decades. It did not used to be like this. 10, 15 years ago, we had a lot of salmon. When I was growing up, that was the thing. Salmon were everywhere. But we have people who don't even fish. Has anybody ever seen Jay Inslee with a fishing pole in his hand? I don't even know if he knows which end of a fishing pole to hold on to. Seriously. I have hunted and fished all my life, growing up. There's 3 things that we need to do to bring back our fisheries and bring back that entire industry. We need our hatcheries to put out 100%, and we need to build more hatcheries where they're needed.
What about the innocent people that want to protect their families and want to protect their families and then they get shit on by the Democratic judge? What?
Yes. So we need the hatcheries to put out 100%, right? Build more hatcheries where we need them. We need to control the predator population, not just in the water, but on land as well. The seals and sea lions pile up at the bottom of dams, at the mouths of rivers, and they eat a lot of salmon. If salmon can't get back up to spawn, there's not going to be any fish coming back out, right? And we need to take care of the environment. Salmon need clean gravel to spawn in. Those 3 things are going to bring back our salmon populations and that entire industry for the citizens and for tourism. Are you with me? Right now, commercial fishermen, sport fishermen, and the tribes are squabbling amongst themselves. They have been for years, but it's because they're fighting over scraps. I will bring them all to the table, and we will get this figured out. It's nothing hard. It's common sense.
I know you're doing
We can do this. So Jay Inslee, speaking of the environment, he says we're having all these catastrophic wildfires all over the state because of global climate change. You know, these fires are catastrophic. They're killing people, firefighters, burning homes, killing wildlife, killing domestic animals. They're out of control. There's 2 ways that fires start, right? It's either man-made or caused by lightning, correct? I mean, the wind could blow really hard and 2 trees could rub together really fast and start a fire, but I don't think that happens, right? So lightning or man-made. The reason they're burning so hot and so fast and they become catastrophic is because there's so much fuel on our public lands. We are not managing our lands like we used to. You know, we used to thin the forest, we'd log it, replant it, clean up the carbon on the forest floor. That's not happening now. We did not have these catastrophic wildfires 15, 20 years ago. Add to that fact that the state and the federal government have been closing down road access to our public lands since the early 90s. Right? First they dug out the front of the roads and then they put up metal gates. And some of the roads they brought heavy equipment in and completely taken the roads out. So when a fire does start, firefighters don't have access back there to fight it. Not to mention citizens don't have access to go back and hunt and fish or cut firewood. Right? We need to have access to our public lands and we need to manage them like we should. And I will work towards that as governor. We need to get our government back within the confines of the Constitution. That is the rule book for our government, right? It does not tell us what we can and can't do. It tells our government what it can and can't do. And elected public servants take an oath of office to uphold and defend that Constitution. I will have a firm grasp on that rule of law when I'm governor. And we will get our government back within the confines of that rule book and following the rules. And the beautiful thing about that is when the law is applied and the Constitution is followed by our government, everyone is protected equally. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter your religion, your age, your sex, your income, your education. Everyone is protected equally under the law when it is applied. That's why we're getting so much support for this campaign from Democrats. They see what happens when we have a governor who operates outside the rule book, outside of the Constitution, and arbitrarily makes rules based on what his consultants tell him to say. Right? He's affecting people's lives. He's shutting down businesses. Crimes are through the roof. People are committing suicide. There's domestic violence is out of control. And Jay Inslee is arbitrarily making rules from one week to the next. We don't know what he's going to say next. You know, it's like watching a football game and the referees are throwing the flag and blowing the whistle on every play. Pretty quick, nobody wants to play and nobody wants to watch, right? It's a mess. It's total mayhem and confusion. And that's what's going on right now with Jay Inslee. And the Democrats are seeing that. And when I talk about following the rule of law, protecting everyone equally, it resonates across the party line, and we're getting tremendous support from people who have been lifelong Democrats. That's how we're going to win this. That's how we're going to take this state back. For any bill that comes across my desk as governor that the legislature wants signed into law, I have 3 rules. Number 1, is it constitutional? Is what they're wanting me to sign allowed by the Constitution? Because that is the rule book for the government. Number 2, will it help the citizens of Washington State? Not special interest groups, not friends of the governor, but the citizens. Because the government works for us. I have one special interest group that I'm going to be advocating for when I'm governor. I want to let you know that up front. And that special interest group is we the people. And the third rule, can we afford it without any new taxes? Government spending has gone from $30 billion a year to $30 billion for budget cycle to $60 billion. Government spending has doubled under Jay Inslee, and he promised he was not going to raise taxes when he was running for governor. Remember that? Yeah. The state budget has doubled. Have the roads got any better? No. Are the government services any better? No. They're just wasting taxpayer dollars, and that money comes right out of our pockets. We need to get our government under control. We need to go to a zero-based budget where every department head has to justify what they need the money for ahead of time. Right now, at the end of the fiscal year, every department head has money left over in their budget. They go on a spending spree. They buy things they don't need because they don't want to lose out on that money on the next budget cycle plus an increase. So they spend billions of dollars on things that we don't need, just so they don't miss out on their next budget. If anybody here works for the government, you know what I'm talking about. It happens all the time. But with the department heads justifying what they need the money for ahead of time, that will stop. And we can reduce government spending, which will allow us to reduce taxes because we are overtaxed. So let me tell you a real quick story. Something that happened in my life that really hit home, really made me proud to be an American. In 1983, I was serving in the United States Army. I was a sergeant, and I was stationed overseas in South Korea. And every year, there's a joint military exercise called Team Spirit. And all of the South Korean forces and all the branches of the United States military get together in a joint exercise, a training exercise in South Korea. And I was in the Army, so we traveled around in convoys, in trucks and jeeps, moving from one site to the next. And we would travel on the dirt roads that are all over South Korea. And dotted along these dirt roads was little villages with rice paddies around them. And when the convoys would get close to these little villages, the village people, right? Yeah. YMCA. Everybody that lived in the village would come running out to the road when they heard the convoys coming. Little kids, older people. And they'd be standing in a line right alongside the dirt road as we rolled by. and they'd be standing there with big smiles on their faces, waving with one hand, and in the other hand they would have little American flags. They didn't care what color we were. They didn't care what our religion was. They didn't care what our rank was. They didn't care what our sex was. They didn't care anything other than we were Americans. We represented the greatest nation in the history of the world. And we were there to protect them. Our country saved their country from communism. We need to remember that here at home. The left wants to divide us by our sex, by our color, by our age, by our race. It doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we need to stand up for our rights. And we can lead Washington's comeback. Thank you, guys. God bless you.